We've just seen the 7th Devo film. Like the first 6, that's a dramatic representation of their music. Unlike the first 6, however, this one's involved in a controversy. This is Mark and Jerry from the band, and Jerry's going to explain the situation this time.
Mark and I were just trying to develop a kind of a scenario. Like most of our films, it's usually a Fellini-esque or surreal reinterpretation of familiar things in the culture that people can understand, because we were trying to say something to people and trying to communicate on some other level than a slick product, which we are not. And in this case, with the way the country seems to be going and the inexhaustible interest in cowboy as the myth of modern man and the cowboy with the gun and fun at the ranch and mom and apple pie, we set up a scenario with cowboys and jeans and mom and apple pie and us dressed as kind of boat people with our flower pots on.
Because you've been kind of depressed about the direction things are going in, haven't you? I mean, if you listen to your music, you would think you have a few complaints about the...
I suppose we do. I mean, we kind of view the situation like aliens. I don't mean alienated, just aliens, like somebody hovering in a little craft watching human behavior and not believing that it could really be true. Whip It, for instance, is the opposite of sexist. It doesn't even fit into any definition, which I don't understand what that definition even means. I think that people that make those kind of accusations should have to substantiate them or be quiet.
Mark, when you're putting together a film, let's say the toaster incident and the idea of the woman and the whip and so forth, do you think there's any boundaries that people should put on artists? I mean, do you think that those boundaries are too tight nowadays, or? I mean, because one of the whole objectives of your band is to kind of say, look, just to jar and stimulate and have people think about things. And if you do it in a very conventional manner, you're not going to achieve that.
If the spud fits, wear it.
I mean, does this guy look like a sexist?
Jerry, do you think that there's limits on what a person should be able to say in art?
Well, the problem is, who's establishing the limits? I mean, the limits seem to always go in one direction. There's one bias. No one objects to the Love Boat. No one objects to TNA commercials and TNA sitcoms, and no one objects to promo films of Rod Stewart singing between a girl's legs with hot pants on, or Meatloaf grinding up against a girl in a slit gown.
Because that's all part of the American experience, right?
That's their kind of sex, so they say, yay. That fits the bill. But we come on with a sense of humor and a parody of maybe their values, and I suppose we're asking to be attacked because that doesn't please them. It doesn't reinforce what they already think. I mean, the question isn't sex or not sex, it's what kind of sex. I mean, sex isn't bad, but there's bad sex.
Well, is it almost like a silent triumph, the fact that the thing does achieve what if you were trying to stir people up with this thing, and the fact that it did stir them up, is that do you feel, in some kind of perverse way, is that almost like a pleasure for you?
I suppose, yes, perverse. It certainly wasn't meant to be received in the way it has been received, I suppose it's kind of ironically just. But I'm glad that actually we even have this forum for expressing our own viewpoint. It's very, very seldom that an artist has a voice concerning the accusations made against him.
4 years ago, 5 guys from Akron, Ohio splashed on the music scene with a hit called Satisfaction and a look that insinuated that technology had gone berserk. They called themselves Devo, short for Devolution, and went on to produce several hits and a huge following. Devo was back in Toronto recently as part of a world tour to promote their latest concept and album entitled New Traditionalists. It was a good opportunity to get together with guitarist Jerry Casale over an Italian dinner.
I'm the only member of Devo that eats real food. I've been ostracized for it. Everybody else is in their pods tonight, taking their intravenous fluids.
Devo has devolved through a number of different phases throughout the years. I asked the band what had inspired their latest image change.
Legionnaire's disease.
There's been a lot more unexplained chemicals and pollution in the atmosphere in the Los Angeles area in the last year.
Do you find that the group has devolved into something much different than it was in the initial stages?
In one word, yes.
We predicted that. I mean, it's safe to predict that. And we invited everybody to watch it happen. And it's happening.
How would you say it's changed? Could you articulate that?
Well, we're basically probably about 6 months away from chemotherapy treatments.
And that's a result of the environment
Of the music business.
The music business is
Yeah.
cancerous.
It is.
You kind of have dog's years when you're in the music business. You kind of age, 7 years for every year.
Right. And the new vinyl they're using. I don't even want to talk about that.
What do you think is the fault with most of the bands that you hear around these days? You wouldn't seem to me to be
They're not telling you
followers of-
anything. They're not telling you anything. They're telling everybody what they've heard for 15 years, and they're telling them even not as well. It's like bad, derivative, unimaginative crap.
So there is no one around that you are particularly inspired by in the music business?
I think there are some people around that are interesting at this point, finally.
Like?
I thought Heaven 17 from England was quite good. The Splinter Group from the Human League. They have a song called We Don't Need That Fascist Groove Thing. I like them. I liked Bow Wow Wow when I saw them.
Walla Voodoo. There's a lot of bands.
Yeah, Walla Voodoo from Los Angeles. That's a group on IRS Records. It just came out with an album called Dark Continent. They have several really good songs.
But it's just very recently that you've started to, admire other musicians.
Well, when they started talking about new wave, we were really hopeful that that was in fact true. And the new wave turned out to be old wave in new clothes. There was nothing new about it other than chronology. And then finally, in the last couple of years, there is another aesthetic emerging, from what people call techno-pop sometimes, And there are finally bands dealing with other kinds of subject matter and substance and combining it with new kinds of beats that are danceable. It's interesting finally.
For Devo, films and videos play just as important a role in getting their messages across as their music. They've produced some of the most unique and imaginative videos ever. The videos that you've done, the ones I've seen so far, have been most remarkable. Do you feel that eventually you might get into that totally and forget about recording just straight, vinyl discs
That would
and
be
stop
ideal.
touring? And
Yeah, from the beginning, that's what we were, and we still are, and we hope to be vindicated at some point that is recognized for that particular form, because it's non-competitive with people like Kenny Rogers and Christopher Cross. If people want that stuff, they can have it, but if they want something different and new that's also entertaining, they can have Devo.
Let the word go forth that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.